Ireland doesn't see that part of going forward. So these are the most recent parties. It's a new convention, and it's only 2 years old, but Ireland at the moment is thinking, we're not sure if we want to pursue intangible heritage. But I would argue your intangible heritage should complement your natural heritage and your cultural heritage. Here's Ramsar. This is sites of international importance because they are wetlands. Wetlands are important because birds come into them, or they're ecosystems in a coastal environment which are just valuable. 1,855 sites. Fantastic, that's a lot of sites. This is the one area where Ireland is overrepresented. You call them bogs, we call them wetlands. There's kind of a difference here. But Ireland is overrepresented in wetlands and bogs. The harbour is a Ramsar site. Not that you'd know it, but it's a Ramsar site. The problem here is you've overrepresented yourself in one type of heritage. Now, just because you can get a site inscribed isn't necessarily the best strategy for tourism. This is what we did in New Zealand. This is E7. E7's this little fella up here. Actually, it's a girl. She's a bird. Obviously, E7's a bird. And with the help of some very smart Americans, we put a tag on her and we tracked her around the world. And it's the longest migration route. That's fantastic. If you think I had a hard trip getting over here, you should try to fly it by yourself. And she flew. She does it every year, along with 10,000 of her mates. And they go here. Now, the importance of this is that E7 is part of what New Zealand decided to make into a flyway and then a bilateral agreement. So E7 comes from a Ramsar site. We've only got 7 Ramsar sites. We haven't got close to 100 Ramsar sites, but the ones we've got the bird, we worked out where the bird was going, we then worked out where the birds were landing, we made agreements on a regional basis between the countries, and we now know that the tourists are travelling between New Zealand and all the spots that E7 stops off. What E7 was worth to us, in terms of numbers, was 10,000 people per year. And this was just through tracking one animal and developing that through a series of agreements and advertising it. Not saying we're oversubscribed in wetlands. It's been a little bit more discerning with the way you want to do it. 10,000 people. So the community that E7 lives in went from being a somewhat sleepy backwater to now it's building its first 5-star hotel. Because these people come in. These are the tourists you want. Eco-tourists are deep pocket tourists. These are not people who come here on the cheap. These are people who come into your community. They will stay a longer period than most tourists. They will integrate themselves. They will spend money in the community and they will move on. And often they will only come for tourism which is both socially and ecologically sustainable. These are premium tourists. And so we covet these ones. This is your 4th regime. Man and the biosphere. This is a regime which comes out of the United Nations in 1972. Part of the debate about heritage areas is how you integrate communities. Sometimes you can have a heritage area and you can say no people whatsoever because it's full of an important type of biodiversity. Or you can have other heritage places like these ones where you can see with the circles you have a core area, a buffer area, a transition area, and humans live in it. Some heritage areas are designed to include people, not exclude them. Ireland tends to see heritage, natural heritage, as either people are in or out. There is a middle way, and the man in the biosphere is like that. And so you make sure you manage the sites, the communities exist, and you go forward. Now, this is very cool. I like this convention here. In Ireland, though, you only have 2 biosphere reserves. And these were both inscribed in 1983 and 1984. So they are reflecting a type of thinking which is somewhat antiquated because conservation has moved a long way in the last 30 years. And some examples of that is This is the man in the biosphere regimes in North America and in Mexico. And 2 years ago, Mexico and the United States signed an agreement because the monarch butterfly migrates. It migrates up and down the coast of North America and down to Central America. And so there's biosphere reserves in all of the key places where the butterfly migrates. You may or may not like butterflies, but a lot of tourists like butterflies. People just do. They like birds, they like butterflies, they just like all sorts of things. People come. Now the point of this is, when I was doing a little bit of research, is that I found out that Kerry has one of the highest concentrations of endemic migratory butterflies in Europe. And so you've got butterflies that are, I mean, I know it's a dangerous thing with these winds that you get out there to be a butterfly and try to go across the channel, but you do. Butterflies migrate between Ireland and Europe. You can take these sites, you can make them in the biosphere reserves, you can make sure that the farmers are still there, the communities work around them, and you've listed something, and the tourists will come. I told you it was going to be short. So, sorry about this. Unlike E7, I get very dehydrated flying. What are the trends? Here's what you have to think about. The trends in international law is that there's going to be more sites listed. This is a very competitive space. Governments want more sites. You need to be aware that governments always only respond to those who advocate the best. Do not be silent in pursuing your tourism, because all governments are lobbied by regional authorities, and each authority will be trying to say our sites are more significant than our neighbours' sites. You have to be competitive, because if you are silent or just assume that the government is acting on your behalf, you may be mistaken. Everyone wants a part of this, and so all governments are pushing for more sites. Tourism is the growth area of the future, and so the trend is it's growing and it's competitive. Why care? We care for two reasons. You can sing with the angels, or you can suck with the devil. You can do it because it's intangible and it's valuable, and we should be protecting it irrespective of money. We should protect heritage irrespective of money. We should protect heritage because it makes a lot of money. You can do both. They are not either or. 5 conventions. There are 5 international mechanisms that Kerry and Ireland can pursue in this area if they want to. But at the moment, as an outsider, I would humbly suggest that you are underperforming. And you can do better. You have the heritage, you have the mechanisms, but at the moment, 2 sites on World Heritage, looking in 2 areas, when you could probably beat Britain if you wished. You have to start thinking laterally.